All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. I feel like these last three trading days, Thursday, Friday, and today's trading day, have been the craziest I've ever seen. At least the craziest I've seen on the way down. I've seen some really wild and good wild ups, but I'm 30 something, right? 2008, I was a kid. I don't really know that at all, right? 2012, I was still a kid. I was, right? I was barely any smarter than '08. It was only a couple years after that, right? 2020, I definitely remember. COVID hit everyone, right? But I wasn't a good trader, right? I wasn't a technical this and that. I didn't really understand how to trade it, how to like recover and this and that, right? Um, this is my first like educated trader view of bad. And hey, knock on wood, I was very much ready for it. Knock on, hopefully you were too, right? I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, but we've been talking about the inverses, sqqq, sh. I talked about tslq on one of the last videos. That's a Tesla inverse. It's not, it could have been so much worse. And hopefully it wasn't as crazy on your side, right? But I think to me, it's wild to wonder what's gonna happen next. And you know me, I have no idea, right? I'm not gonna here pretend I know the bottom and this and that, but I will tell you, the weekly chart right now on the NASDAQ, on the S&P 500, and on the Dow Jones is what I'm probably looking at the most. All right, and trust me, there's a lot of lines, and I do apologize for it, but I'm just gonna quickly zoom out real quick. All right, on the Dow Jones, you can see it actually happens in 2020, and what it is I'm talking about the 200 moving average right now on the weekly. All right, when we look at the S&P 500, I'm talking about the 200 moving average on the weekly. All right, and then when we look at NASDAQ, again, I'm talking about the 200 moving average on the weekly. On NASDAQ, we actually never really lose that 200 moving average. There's a little bit of a test right here. There's a little bit of a test right there in 2020. Obviously, it's a little more extreme on the S&P 500, but even that is only one candle and never confirmed, right? Excuse me. Dow Jones, DJ30, I could see Dow Jones getting hit more, but again, never really confirms, right? And again, I'll get into all the details shortly, right? But the last real time we lost the 200 moving average on the weekly was this '08 scare, right? When you look at the S&P 500, it was that '08 scare, right? We were a little under it, nothing crazy. I talked about that one, and then nothing right there, right? NASDAQ as well, right? The only time we were really under it was '08. 2012 didn't do it, 2020 didn't do it. And COVID was obviously super crazy, right? I don't know what's gonna happen on this weekly. I really don't. And oh man, I think the 50-50 has me leaning more towards bad than good. But I think today's daily candle, and I mean you can see it on the 1 minute, right? The second, that right there, right? The second there's even a small window of belief that the tariffs are gonna be good to go, that's when things will be good. And believe me, I sincerely believe this will happen and sustain. I believe this will not just be on the 1 minute chart, it will eventually come back on the daily like it has, right? We made it out of that. We made it out of that. We made it out of that, right? Like we will make it out of this eventually. Right now, we have a lot more to see, right? And again, as NASDAQ does bad, sqqq will do well. Today was a crazy day on this one, that's for sure, right? It was the inverse crazy of that one. SH is an inverse of the S&P 500, the exact opposite candle, right? The sdow, exact same crazy, right? What did Tesla look like? TSLQ. Tesla 2x short, same exact candle, just the opposite, right? So all of these inverses are looking crazy, and really the same commonality is they all have a real big window up if it goes. This one breaks all five and flies, right? So um, that's really the focus here. Again, I'm not really talking about tickers. Tickers aren't going to do well until the index calms down, right? So that's still for sure the emphasis on these videos, all right? So before we do go any further, though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here and giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, look, I'm going to go into the details of the day, and really there was a real nice chart image shared right here. So again, I don't really know this Twitter account. They seem like a really big account, but this is their image, and it's a really cool image of what happens today. And all they're looking at is the 1 minute chart, right? Let me just zoom out real quick. They are looking at boom from 10 a.m. to just past 10:40. Right? And you can see it right here from 10 a.m. just past 10:40 at the flat, the pop, and the drop. So what happened, right? There was rumors of the tariff being paused. All right, in that was the minute it happened at 10:10. The following minute at 10:11, this is all Eastern, right? So this is 7 a.m. my time on the Pacific, right? CNBC actually reported it that Trump is going to consider a pause. The following minutes really run, and you can see they literally add trillions, all right? From there, look, as the technical dude, I would say green, red, right? If you watch my videos, that's the game, right? What really happened was all of a sudden the White House started to say no, that was fake news. I haven't actually heard that term in a good while, but they said fake news. And there it is right there again, right? They actually use the term fake news, and then literally, right, that entire green became red. And look, that's the S&P 500. I just showed the exact same thing on the NASDAQ, excuse me, and you can imagine the Dow Jones looked exactly the same, right? So what looked like a look, I think this, I swear, I actually didn't even know that the daily was that doji. Today was a doji day, and I mean the fact that this thing is that textbook a doji, right? Doji is just a candle, right? And look, this is a 7-hour trading day, and the Dow Jones, excuse me, basically opens and closes about $80 different. That's insane, right? Like in 7 complete hours, you couldn't decide if this thing should go up and down. You couldn't decide if this should confirm or not. Like that's wild, right? This is S&P 500. That's not as tight a doji, but I mean, I would call this crazy uncertainty. Some people thought it needed to go, some people thought it needed to come down, and then obviously the NASDAQ, right? So I was talking a lot about the 15-minute chart on the NASDAQ, and I hope you can see it why before I say it, right? So today is the 7th. This is the entire day on the 15-minute chart, right? What was it all about? It was all about getting over that 50 moving average. And one thing I talked about, give me the number real quick. It was 15,800. That was the important number on NASDAQ today. And it was around 10, so 11, 12, 1, right? Around 1 o'clock, you can see it. The goal was break me that red line. Get me over the 50 moving average on the 50, on the 15. And hey, there's a nice little chance right there, right? Unfortunately, it just wasn't able to do it. And that brought us to where we were, right? So yeah, it's here's my thoughts, all right? And I'm going to talk about the weekly shortly because that is going to be obviously the thing that I think matters more, right? Like I said in the opening. What has been happening on the NASDAQ is we come away from the 8, we go to the 8. We come away from the 8, we go to the 8, right? We come away from it, we go to. We are really far away from the 8. Excuse me. I think there's a chance that we might make a little recovery back up. And really, this is going to start drastically coming down soon, right? Like these gap downs are quick. This is 4 out of the 8 candles of the 8 moving average, right? So these are really going to start to take precedent, especially tomorrow when they become 5 of the 8, right? So this is going to start drastically coming down, so that like recovery isn't going to be as drastic and good as it could have been, right? But that's a low RSI. We're in the 30s, and man, I don't remember. Look how far back I am. We're already at 22. It's been a long time since we've been much lower. It looks like it's hit like maybe the 18s. What number is this actually? This is 14 right here, right? So maybe there's a little precedent of it going a little bit lower. What was that number right there? That was 13 again. Yeah, so 14. There's still some room on the RSI to go down, but the one thing I've been talking about is I'm kind of ignoring the MACD and the RSI right now, right? I think what matters is up here. And it's interesting. I remember not that long ago, it was sometime during this climb, I was like, maybe I should delete these lines down here, right? And I'm very glad I didn't, but I don't even know what like this is an old line, right? This is a 2023 line actually. Maybe you can say 2024, but we're starting to come into some historic things, and a lot of that green is quickly redding, right? So this seems like the next real strong line is 14,400, right? 14,380 is what I'm basically on. And then, yeah, from there, it's a pretty hard fall. So hopefully one of these holds, but oh man, it feels tough, okay? What will dictate everything, I think, is the next coming weeks, all right? One more time, okay? We haven't been under that purple line on NASDAQ since '08, right? 2012 didn't do it. Even COVID, there was a, oops, sorry, zoomed in too much. There was a single one right there, but definitely no confirmation and a continue on upward, right? I don't know. I really don't know. You know what I mean? And that feels a little more sustained than that like wild shock that was able to kind of recover quickly. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a lot of apples to apples. And even looking at the indicators, right? This RSI barely goes lower than where we're at. This thing, I'm still wondering if we're going to the 14s, like I just mentioned, right? So oh man, even the MACD looks. I don't know. I called it 50-50, but to me it feels like that line's gonna lose. And the opposite of it is sqqq. If sqqq can break that 100 moving average, which again, it hasn't even come remotely close to doing it since you guessed it, right? '08. And this thing didn't even basically exist in '08, right? So it actually never has done it. If this thing can get over that 100 moving average, which is the equivalent of NASDAQ, which is QQQ, if it loses that line right there, oh man, it's so um I don't know if I rambled too much. This one was a little bit more of a my goodness video, I'm telling you, right? But one more time. I think the important things to remember are the 200 moving average on the weekly for the index. That means Friday's close matters a lot, right? Let's go back to the actual NASDAQ handle, right? Friday really needs to get me a lot closer to that 100 moving average, right? The last thing I want to do is have this thing slip closer and closer, right? But this cannot lose the 200 moving average. If they do, real bad things might actually happen, all right? SPX, where is that one at? This one has a little bit more space. That's a good thing. This one actually is a little bit closer to getting back over the 100. So, hey, hopefully that's a solid chance right there. And then again, this doji is, I mean, as this is the chart that I think screams it the most. It really does. Like the uncertainty we saw today, and really what matters is the uncertainty we saw after that wild Friday. Oh man, I mean, there's this is just crazy. You know what I mean? So again, I feel like I rambled. Hopefully there was something educated here. It's all about the 200 moving average on the weekly one last time. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, hey, I appreciate you so much.